He didn't mention it like that, of course, right? Give me a sec. Don't blink, it's your blink. Welcome to. Hope you're having a wonderful day. It is 12 o'clock. As you can see, it is a lot darker. We have a lot less light on the balcony, so it's nice because we get to do two sources of video. And you think it's gonna be a different day? No, it's the same day. Look at the ice here. Super nice. Sorry about that. I had to do another video. Yeah, so you were thinking about this generational belief that you know what, you don't need to work. We'll make it. We'll make it, right? If you don't see your parents working, but you're still managing to survive, the first thing you're gonna say is, "I can survive like my parent did," right? I know it's possible, so let's try it out. However, in some of the cases, and it's always like the two sides of a medal, right? And my father, about that in my mind, it was the generational wealth enslavement. So, for example, this basic 9 to 5, right? And for generation, you're an employee and never the employer. And there's nothing wrong with being an employee, right? But there's nothing wrong with being an employee. There's nothing wrong with a 9 to 5. But there is something wrong with believing that you're not worth more. Now, technically speaking, you don't have to have ambition. If you're okay with 9 to 5, if you're okay with being an employee, that is super cool. That is super cool. I was talking with this girl yesterday, and she was talking to me about how she got promoted. She got promoted to a assistant manager at her store. And my first question was like, are you dealing with the authority? How do you deal with giving shit to people, you know? And she was like, well, it's shitty, but I'm getting more cash. So, see, it's a risk and reward, right? It risks being shitty, but then the reward, you get more cash. And the idea of the generational enslavement for wealth was that for her, being as a manager was possibly way higher than she could have gotten, right? And again, there's no problem with that. There's no problem with the 9 to 5. If promotion is a promotion, it's a great thing. A promotion will always be a reason to celebrate, right? However, I think the problem is that you are in this mold and this generational enslavement of there's nothing that I can do without that, right? So we're seeing that before. We were seeing that way centuries ago. The father was a blacksmith, the son was a blacksmith, the grandson was a blacksmith, and it was causing a problem because although the problem wasn't the fact that they were blacksmith, the problem was that they felt enslaved in the mentality of there's nothing else I can do, right? So broadening the horizon. Also, we saw that a lot in Quebec, in particular. Like for example, you had a familial farm, and you would need nothing. You would need nothing. You would have food. You would have milk. You would have eggs. You would have everything and anything that you ever could have wanted. However, there was a price for that. There was a big price for that. Your kids are going to take care of the farm. Those kids are going to take care of the farm, right? And ultimately speaking, it doesn't matter how many generations are truly willing to do this. There's going to be one generation that's not willing to. You're going to be like, no, this is not me. So I do think that it's a and again, it's a mentality of I need to get married because my parents were married and their parents were married and their parents were married, or I need to have children because my friends have children, right? It is a mental enslavement because you want to be part of this. So it's a reverse psychology beehive mind. So the beehive mind is I want to act like my neighbors because they're normal, so I want to be normal, so I act like a normal person. And the beehive mind is that. But the reverse psychology is if you don't do that, even though you think like everybody else, you're not part of everybody else, right? And then it is crazy because I was watching people that have companies that are company owners, and they were saying it's crazy. This generation is weak because all you need is a little bit of guts or a little bit of bravado, and the world is yours. And although I agree with that, I disagree with it because most of these people it's so ingrained in them and so part of their system or belief system actually, that okay, well I can't do nothing else than this, so that's what I'm gonna do, right? And I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. However, I do think that where it becomes wrong is the factor that okay, well, you never even envisioned being something else, right? As a kid, you got this beautiful spirit of hey, I want to be a police officer, I want to be a firefighter, right? And I want to be like a astronaut. Then you never do it because you realize that no, it's not possible. But even as a kid, you see the babies, and they're playing with food a lot, right? And this is actually something to develop the senses. This is really helpful for I don't know. There's a specific word for it. I don't know it, but it's very beneficial for them to play in their food, right? So there's some curiosity. There's some naivete, some hope, right? And then you lose that, and I think that's sad. I think that's sad, and I think it's sadder that the only reason why you're thinking that way is because that's how you were raised. And it's funny because this morning we're talking about nature versus nurture, and that's part of nurture, right? Part of nurturing is that, and that's insane. You know, I was talking about also, am I truly kind, or am I just kind because I was taught to be kind? Am I just kind it's because my parents were kind? If my parents were kind, I was able to be kind myself. It's a complicated thing. It's a really complicated thing. But at the same time, it's very beneficial because you're like, okay, well, if I can figure it out, that is super cool. If I cannot figure it out, that is kind of like a mess. But if I can figure it out, it's super cool. And I think it's a good question. Actually, a really good question to ask. Why am I the way I am? Why do I feel like I don't deserve more? Why don't I feel like I don't deserve less? There's also this problem. There's also this problem of I think the world is mine, so therefore I'll be like a dick, right? So there's this middle, and this middle I think is a personal journey, right? So what if the pursuit of happiness was the pursuit of understanding yourself, and understanding kind of the balance? Who knows? Now I saw that your battery, that your storage is low. You're at 12 gig. Yeah. Okay. Don't link in this experience. And although I'm okay. I'll do what I must. Don't blink, it's your blink. Welcome to the Commentary Show. I'm doing WhatsApp, having a wonderful day on this 10th April 2025. A lot of you guys have been talking about how the content has been changing lately. And the answer to that is actually really simple. My apologies. It's not gas are normal, but sadly, it's not the truth. It's not the answer. And I've noticed a change in my personality. I have noticed a change in my behavior lately. And I gotta say, it's as simple as understanding that the weather changed. So I'm not cooped up inside anymore, right? They're working out, right? The fact that I'm talking to you guys a lot more. We're riding a horizon, and we're not stuck in this cage. We're still stuck in a cage, which is society, right? But this cage is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think that's why the content is changing. I think it's a mixture of the fact that, for example, this morning we were filming in the sun. It was beautiful. Today we'll be training. It's always fun. And when we're training, we're talking to you guys, which usually I wouldn't talk. I would spend weeks without talking to people. I can't remember the last time that I didn't talk to a person in one day. And that is why the content is improving. Thank you. With the translation, making content, how it changed. Don't link, it's Wayne, welcome to the commercial. You guys are doing well, so having a wonderful day on this 10 April 2025. Today we're going to be talking about an important subject. Yesterday I made a video about why we don't give up. And it's weird because when I made that video, it was kind of like I was giving up, right? There's a lot of talk of, okay, well, it's not perfect. Okay, well, I'm not getting what I want. Okay, well, I'm looking for a job. There was a lot of talk of that, right? And at the end, I noticed that I wasn't referring to myself as somebody that is a content creator. I wasn't referring to myself as the person who saw themselves being successful or even to long term, right? And I even mentioned this as a hobby, right? But then, what is a content creator, right? Now, a lot of people will say, hey, there's no result, there's no success, right? But what is a content creator? I think the right question is, what is a painter? Because if you understand what's a painter, you understand what's a content creator. If you understand what's a musician, you understand what is a musician. If you understand what is a sculptor, you understand what it is, right? Now, the beautiful thing about this is, for all these three, the musician, the sculptor, and the painter, you can kind of figure out what is a job. We all have a similar description of what it is. A painter is somebody that takes a paintbrush and paints. A musician is somebody that plays music, and a sculptor is somebody that sculpts, right? And we all agree on that definition. However, as a job, we don't necessarily agree. Are you supposed to make money? How many paintings did you have to sell? How many years did you have to be a painter to be considered a painter? How many galleries did you have to be involved with to be a true painter, right? So the context of being a content creator, I think it's very vague, but the perception and the understanding and even the description of it in my book is very different, because to me a content creator was somebody that used to live out of it. It's like, well, every single day they'll make content, they'll have brand deal, they'll do different content, and then they'll be able to survive, right? But then this description changed. This description became, okay, well, maybe this is not what we're thinking. Maybe it doesn't matter how many videos you do, because even then, this last year, I was making 20 videos a day, and I still felt like 20 was not enough, right? Was it because I didn't see myself as a content creator? Was that secretly why? Was that secretly the source of insecurities, right? The reason as to why we're so insecure. But then when you understand that content creation isn't a paycheck, content creation isn't based upon values like, I don't know, based on value like, I don't know, it's complicated. Based upon values of success, but it's just a figure of speech or a train of thought, like a painter. Like, for example, you look at Picasso, look at Van Gogh, right? Look at really, really popular artists, and they weren't known for this, well, possibly during their lifetime, but they were really popular when they were dead, right? Elvis still sells CDs. Michael Jackson still sells CDs. Michael Jackson was the prey of so many media, right? Now, was there truth to what he did? Was there not truth to what he did? I don't know. I'm not gonna be pronouncing myself something that I don't know. But at the same time, when you understand that content creation as a whole is a different thing, and it's odd because people don't like the word influencer, right? But then, what is an influencer? What's a content creator himself? I think it's a person that So, for example, right, a painter, a person that paints, right? A content creator is a person that creates content. But what is the definition of content? That's where it's weak. That's where it's vague. What is the definition of content? Is there a true definition? Is there a preconceived notion of what's a content creator? And the answer is, I don't know. And that is the beautiful part of it. It's the beautiful part. The beautiful part of it isn't, well, I think it's that and this and that and this and that. That's not the beautiful part. The beautiful part is, I don't need to be successful. I don't need to be I don't need to be the best. I don't need to even be one of the best. I only need to be average or above average, right? And I realize that my definition, content creation might have changed. Doesn't mean it's bad. And your definition of content creator might have changed. Doesn't mean it's bad either. So that is where this confusion, but also a sort of understanding, a sort of revelation of, well, as long as I'm doing what I want, and as long as I call this art, I'm happy, right? This video, is it art? No. To me, is it content? Yes. Does that make me a content creator? Well, we just created a video, which therefore makes us a content creator. And then, even then, you ask yourself, nobody's gonna ask you, what are you doing? So, for example, what are you doing? People ask you, what are you doing? You're never gonna hear somebody says, I'm a successful content creator. You're gonna hear I'm a content creator, right? And that's where it's crazy, because there's different levels of success. There's a hierarchy of the reach that you have. And it's odd to me that they're all falling in the same category, right? But then you think about a painter, you think about even a chef in a restaurant. Doesn't matter what you're cooking, doesn't matter where you're cooking, doesn't matter how big is the kitchen, doesn't matter how popular is the restaurant, you're still a cook. And that's where the information is. Anyway, love you guys, take it easy. Peace. Okay. So, what is affecting international claiming? Don't blink, it's your boy. Welcome to the video Couple Show. Today we're having a wonderful day on this 10th April 2025. They were doing something really freaking cool, and that's something that's really freaking cool. Can I get a drum roll, please? Something that's really fucking cool is we're observing how the content has changed, and how grateful I am that it changed. I was watching my videos because I was bored. I was watching my old videos, and I realized that the content I used to do, and I possibly still do, it's very internal. It's very this is how I feel. This is how. This is actually, you know what? I think because of the job that I had, it was how I analyze things, how I see things on the outside, and I feel like the content wasn't bad, but I feel like the content was dependent on what happened that day. So, for example, oh, at work it didn't go well. Oh, at work it went well. So I have something to talk about, and I don't think I would have been able to vocalize emotion or vocalize perception or even vocalize the concept, right? So it was always how we assimilate things. It was always about there's a concept in front of me, we'll take it and we'll put it here. There was also a lot of recaps, right? And those recap was also a show. I'm seeing the show, I'm seeing something exterior, I'm seeing an exterior context, concept, whatever you want to call it. And this is my analyze of it. So this is how I perceive it, right? And although I think it's beautiful, it's also such a weird thing because why did I need to so much take my inspiration? Why did this content rely so much on what's going on in my life? Versus right now, where we used to take information and then react to it. Or we used to have information, exteriorize information, and internalize it. And now we're taking thoughts of internalize. So for example, things that I come up with, things that I'm thinking about, how I perceive things, how I communicate. My communication has improved a lot. And then you talk about it, and you're like, okay, well, this is the concept that I want. This is how I view it, right? And it's crazy because I just made a video about the beehive and generational enslavement, right? And I just did a video about that, and I was thinking about one of the videos that I did. That was years ago. It was about the beehive mind and the way slavery, and it was insane because I do remember those. I don't remember recapping the a show. No, I'm not saying that this is not good, but I'm saying that it's crazy how the concept that we did not enough before is the one we're doing now. Is the one that was the most meaningful to me, right? And this is even understanding that this is an arc, right? So right now we're doing this, then we're gonna be doing something else. Then maybe I'm gonna get a girlfriend, and that girlfriend is gonna be part of my life. So it's gonna become, okay, well, this is how we view things, and the clash of idea of opinion, right? Or maybe then we become a father, and how my perception changed because I am no longer the center of this universe. My kid is, right? So I do feel like this content, and again, there's always gonna be this thought of I should start earlier. There's always this thought of evolution, right? You're never too old to evolve. You're never too old to to devolve. So it's constant fine line of how is the content changing and why is it changing, right? Now, why is it changing? I think is because, like I said, I think it's a mixture of confidence, a mixture of there's crazy concept, this really crazy concept of I needed to come up with videos, so I would talk about IDs. Then I would have this ID, and it would be like a tree, right? This ID, and then you talk about that ID, and then you have this ID, and then you mix it, right? But then you realize that those branches of the tree were only there because you couldn't vocalize or you couldn't focus enough to do one clear thought. Now that you're doing this one clear thought, instead of being a tree with roots, you have a flower. You have a pot of flowers. And they're just different flowers, they're still the same pot. And I think that's amazing. So this evolution of content, and the thing that's going on right now is it's going to continue to evolve, and it's a fun thing. It's a fun thing that it's going on. I just want to see where it goes, right? Now confidence, and that's what I was talking about. The crazy thing, what changed the content was the ability to talk, the confidence of my opinion, right? How I perceive information, how I understand information, right? It's sad to say, but before I was a content creator, I was listening to music. I was watching a show. I didn't care about what I was watching, right? It was always the same thing. And then as a content creator, I was like, you know what? I already watched it. Let's go a bit deeper. Let's go a bit broader, brighten our horizon, right? And it's nice because there's gonna be a point where we're gonna be too bright, they'd be too everywhere. We're gonna have to close that gate, right? And I'm excited for that too, right? I'm excited for that too. So it's just a context of seeing how it goes and seeing how everything will happen. And if we're lucky, we're lucky. If we're not lucky, we're not lucky. But the things that are certain is that we're seeing an evolution, and I'm super stoked to see what's going on to happen next. Doing it every day. I'm happy. I'm happy. Just to tell you guys, I used to work with people. Okay. I used to see the same people every single day, and they were like a family. And I was shy to talk about them, to talk to them about things that I was feeling, right? And I was talking about to strangers about what I was feeling. That is something that is not okay. It's weird. But then with the confidence, I would talk about real life. See, about a month ago, I really had an issue with making a difference between Ink and Steph, and it was always kind of mixing up, and to reality, we're always mixing up, right? And then what I realized is because I saw Steph as this higher being. I saw Steph as this guy who didn't have this fear, who wasn't shy, right? He had his ID, his ideal, his value that were different from Steph, and it evolved, right? So then it evolved, and you're like, okay, well, how did it evolve? Then you see Steph evolve too, and the space, the gate, I don't know how you call it, but the space between the two, the difference between the two, he became closer and closer and closer and closer. And by using Ink, Steph became more confident. And by becoming more confident, I would be able to do what Ink did. But Ink would do it online, and I would do it in real life. Right? And that was a good thing. That was a great thing. Anyway, I gotta bring out some CV. They were giving out CVs, so thank you so much for watching. Love you guys. Take it easy. Okay.